www.call811.com.
Oh no, not again.
It started out as a pretty normal afternoon. Jenny and I just goofing around, you know, kid stuff. But then something happened, and we'd never be able to look at our neighborhood the same way again. I got it! Whoa! Jenny, you've got to see this! What's that? I don't know, but it's cool. Let's go. I want to get it up to our clubhouse where it'll be safe. Can I see it? Hold on, I don't want to drop it.
Wow, neat!
I'll bet we can see all kinds of stuff with this thing. Planets, cool birds. A weird pirate, dude.
Oi, you up there! That's my spyglass! You don't even know how to use it, honestly.
What do you mean? How many ways are there to look through a spyglass?
Well, I'm glad you asked. May I come aboard? Thank you. Take a look over there. Tell me what you see.
It looks like my neighbor's yard, except they've got a lot of colored markings in the grass.
That's good. Now, look again. Only this time, turn the spyglass like so.
Whoa! Michael, you've got to see this!
What is all that?
Those are our underground utilities. Things we need and use every day. Like water, electricity, or even cable TV. They go to your houses through underground pipes and cables.
But what's with all the flags and paint?
Well, someone's obviously planning to do some digging, so they've done the right thing and called 811 and had their yard marked so they know where it would be safe to dig. It's just smart digging.
But why would they want to dig up their yard?
Well, people dig for lots of different reasons. Planting trees, putting in swimming pools, burying treasure. But a lot of people don't realize how many important things are already buried underground right beneath them. The flags and marks.
wanting to. I can share more. Okay, I call this special work session to order. City Clerk, let the records reflect. Who are we missing? Rich. Oh, that Mr. Alton is not currently available.
Okay, thank you.
At this point, I'd like to ask everybody to rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. This is a point where we turn off our phones and also where we go to call to the public. And if there's anybody from public, is there anybody from public wishing to speak this evening?
Not on call to the public, but for the specific item there is.
Okay, great. We'll recognize them at that time. We'll move on to item number 1.
Consideration and action on directing the city manager to intervene in the following Arizona Corporation Commission proceedings. Arizona American Water Company water rate increase request in an amount not to exceed $100,000 and the transfer of contingency funds, Resolution 2011-89, for the intervention process.
Mr. Beckley.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. At your last meeting, we talked about writing a letter of opposition to the rate increase by Arizona American. During that discussion, there was a number of comments relative to proceeding with an intervening process where the city of Surprise would intervene into the rate hearing process. Following your meeting last week, we then began to look into that process to get you information so that tonight we could discuss what is involved, what are some of the costs that would be involved, what activities would be undertaken for you to make a decision whether or not to proceed with that intervention process. Also, you'll see in your packet a resolution that indicates because there is a transfer of funds that would be necessary to accomplish this, that is also attached to your packet. So with that, I'll share with you what I have found out and the basis of our recommendation to you tonight. First of all, the process is nearing the stage of the hearing process. There's the last date to intervene into this case is August 24th. We have just been advised that there has been some extension, some delaying of the current activities. The hearings were scheduled to begin on August 25th. They now have been moved out, at least beyond September. There are an estimated 6 to 7 days of hearings that will occur. And to intervene into the process is basically this. You first submit the paperwork to the ACC. They receive that paperwork, and then they'll make the determination of whether or not to grant the intervention. Maybe the city attorney later on in the discussion can add more to that discussion. In addition to the paperwork, filing the paperwork, the next step is to prepare your case, if you will, the technical issues of your case. In that regard, what we're referring to as technical services would be the person or the persons would be first charged with analyzing all the prior documents that were submitted to the court during the testimony and the applications of the Arizona American rate case. Review the company's cost of equity analysis, cost of debt analysis, and capital structure. Then once they have an understanding of those issues, then they can help us begin to develop our strategy with our particular intervention. What will be the essence and the arguments that we will try to argue? Because at the stage that we're at, we can't really submit a new argument. We can only question people that make testimony. So the other interveners, the Arizona American representatives, as they make their testimony and answers and rebuttals, then we can ask additional questions if we are an intervener. They will assist us with the process of the rate intervention and the representation in front of the Arizona Corporation Commission. And then there'll be an opportunity for the city to file a legal brief, and that will summarize our issues and also raise any other outstanding issues that we still contend should be considered by the court. In order to complete those services, I did locate actually an economist. His name is John Thornton. He's the principal of Thornton Financial Consulting, specializing in utility finance and rates. He previously worked for the Arizona Corporation Commission in their accounting office, so he's very familiar with their process. He also represented the city of Paradise Valley in a case against Arizona American also. His fees are based on an hourly rate. Initial estimate to get started and get the bulk of the work completed would be approximately 80 hours. That may go up slightly, but at his rate of $125 an hour, that came to roughly $10,000. We have anticipated using inside counsel. Michael Bailey has indicated that he feels that his staff can undertake this effort. And if that's the case, and we proceed along that basis, there won't be any additional legal charges. If, however, we see that outside legal representation is necessary, the additional money, the $90,000, was put in here to basically get started with that process in the event that one is necessary. Once we have the initial assessment by the economist, if we go in this direction, then we'll be able to be more clear as far as the direction that we want to take and the anticipated cost if there's a need to hire outside counsel. As I mentioned earlier, there's a resolution that authorizes the transfer of $100,000 from the unforeseen grants fund budget contingencies to the administration budget to handle the disbursement of cost incurred. In the event that those funds are not spent, they will be returned to that same contingency fund, not used for any other purpose. With that, I will open it up for your comments, questions of myself and city manager and city attorney.
I have a couple of questions, and I'm sure council will as well. My first question is it staff's position that we may benefit by intervening in this case?
I'll provide my comments, and I'd welcome the city manager or the city attorney's comments. As I stated earlier at earlier sessions, there are other interveners. Whether or not they will echo all of our concerns is yet to be determined. This is the first rate intervention that I've been involved with, so I don't have the background in that. When talking with other interveners, they indicated that they seem to have good experts on the case. Now, could something else be turned up? That's the question. Could our involvement precipitate something either politically or on a factual basis? It's hard to call.
Okay, so here's kind of where I'm coming from, and I need to share a little bit of information. First of all, it seems like if we're going to intervene, that has to be filed before the 24th of August. So that's a pretty short window, right?
Correct.
Okay, and if we don't file, we're not in the game at all. Correct?
We are just a public citizen.
We're out of it.
Yes.
Okay, so if we file, it may cost us $10,000 to enlist the help of this economist, and we'll still, after having spent that or a portion of that, we will still have the opportunity to make other decisions, I believe, correct?
Yes.
So we could decide, we don't think that we can add anything to the testimony of these other expert witnesses, so we're going to stand down and let them go forward. We could do that, right?
That's it.
Okay. Additionally, I talked to Ken Hewitt, who's a resident of Sun City Grand, who's very, very involved in this situation. He's organizing HOAs, and if the council agrees, I've told him that I and council would support their efforts, even if we have our own efforts with an intervener in terms of organizing the HOAs that are going to be affected by this potential rate increase, and maybe providing venue for them or working with them. And so the reason I'm bringing that up at this point is, in my mind, it's possible that we could file as an intervener, spend some money, but then determine that our money might be better spent, if we spend any at all, supporting someone else's efforts, because they have an attorney that we feel comfortable with being, or an intervener that we feel very comfortable with their qualifications. So, is there anything flawed in that possible scenario?
That approach would be plausible, that we could work under that framework.
Okay, council, any suggestions or thoughts about the process, the one I laid out, or some other one?
Well, I think we ought to be in the game. That's the way I feel.
Well,
for
I agree.
$10,000, we can get in the game. We can and then
keep our options open.
We can enlist. We can find out more. We can find out how we can add value, or wait to the solution. So that's where I'm coming from.
Mr. Beckley, the aspect that we're going after is not going to be quality of water, the rate increase itself, but hiring an economist. You got to be going after the business transaction that's behind all this. Is that correct?
Yes, and if I could add one comment that I failed to mention. At the last meeting, Councilman Alton, you indicated that you had some concerns over the purchase of the company by EPCOR. So part of this action would also be to intervene in the merger case that is before ACC. So the scope of the economist's analysis will be for both cases. He'll look over both cases and come back with concerns or issues that he may have from that. So it may include any or all of those issues. I can't predict what he is going to come up with.
We had thought maybe there was a hole that wasn't being addressed. They were talking about the rate increase, all the interveners, and the quality of water. Correct?
That is one of the issues that have been raised, yes.
And one of the holes was the business transaction in itself, I thought. Okay, so it does make sense then that we go after that hole as well as join the other interveners in the quality or the price increase. And this economist had something to do with fighting. Did Paradise Valley win?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the resolution of that issue was.
Okay. So, I think it would benefit us, the $10,000. But in case you need to spend any more money, come back to us and let us know. We're just not going to give you a blank check for $100.
Yeah, I would agree with Richard there. Let's authorize the $10,000, but let's hold back on the 90 and see where it might be used, whether it's with an outside attorney or joining in with Sun City Grand. It seems as Sun City Grand has an attorney already working on it. They're a step up.
Well, yeah, what they're doing is they're organizing the HOAs, and they're hoping that they can get the collective group of HOAs to all chip in some funding, and that could be a possible route for us at some point to make that decision. So it sounds like you're getting consensus about going forward to make sure that that we have an intervener filed by the 24th. Does anybody have a problem with us working with the HOAs as well, and maybe allowing them to come to council chambers to hold a meeting or to do something along those lines?
No, not at all. I think the priority is getting the status as an intervener, and I think that's what we're hearing consensus about. The extent to which then the city can work with the HOAs to help, to complement, to do whatever, I think is a wonderful idea.
Okay, great. And I would just make one more recommendation, and that is that we ask economic development to assess what kind of negative impact this might have on businesses coming to Surprise, or growth that may be thwarted or diminished because of excessive water rates here in the community or in parts of the community. So, it seems like this calls for a collective effort, and that anybody that is really committed to this, we ought to join them and lend our resources, and not necessarily blend them, because that's a decision that I believe needs to come later rather than right now, but consider partnerships.
Yeah, and I want to comment too, Bob, that I appreciate your reaction to this, fast reaction, because it's not the only thing you had to do. I know. You're a busy guy. And I appreciate you finding this gentleman, and I think maybe he could really add value to what we're doing. So, thank you.
I have a question. Is this an action item?
Yes.
Yes.
Council, yes, it is. It is. It's an action item.
And actually, Mike, I opened the meeting inappropriately. I called it a work session. Actually, this is a special council meeting. The work session starts at 4:30. That was my bad.
I move to approve the city manager proceeding with the intervention process in the amount not to exceed $10,000 in the transfer of contingency funds, Resolution 2011-89, for the intervention process.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously. Thank you very much. I believe that concludes this special council session, so meeting adjourned. Oh.